Hello, my dear audience. This is Kristina, your host today. And today is a new episode of KSM Podcast going business online with Kristina. And I have to say that I'm and super excited today to have my special guest speaker, far away from USA, Lady Yesenia Reinoso. Yesenia, welcome to the KSM show, to the KSM podcast today.
Thank you, Christina, and hello to your audience. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to host you today and to share. I know that this is going to be such an amazing show, or knowing you, what you do as in your business. Just share with us, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and what you do.
Well, again, I am so elated to be here with all of you. Excited to talk about corporate communications, but to give you a little bit of a rundown as to who I am and what I've done throughout my professional career. So, obviously, I am the founder and principal owner of a small corporate communications firm called Y Communicate. And the firm is a small organization that establishes and maximizes a brand's reputation, voice, and identity through in-house corporate communications. So consider us your in-house corporate communications department. We have the heartbeat of a department. We have the mindset of a department. We are an in-house corporate communications department, and that philosophy stems from the practically 15 years of corporate communications experience that I've garnered in corporate America, working for both for-profit and nonprofit organizations, strictly in-house. So throughout my journey, I've had the opportunity to work with some of the biggest organizations and brands, specifically centering on in-house corporate communications, ranging from media relations and public relations to government, nonprofit communications, financial communications, internal communications, basically the entire spectrum of the corporate communications umbrella. I've done in-house. Specifically working with senior executives to stakeholders, shareholders, board of directors, and many different types of internal and external audiences. And on top of all of that, I've also had the opportunity to work extensively in multilingual campaigns. Blessed to say that as I'm multilingual, a communications a professional, I value to heart the importance of storytelling, and as well as being able to communicate through culture, tradition, and heritage, and showing the real essence of what communications is all about, and being open to storytelling to multilingual audiences. I come from born in the United States in Queens, New York, to be exact, to Hispanic parents. My mother is from Panama. My father is from Ecuador. And so fusing both the American and the Hispanic DNAs together really brought out the unique flavor of storytelling, which became a predominantly important part of my childhood. And so to sum it all up together, this unique, mystifying pot of communications flavor, it all stems down to the true purpose of storytelling, the true purpose of communications is storytelling. And why do we think that way? Because we have a story to tell. If you look around you, each and every one of us has a story that needs to be told in a way that is impactful, educational, informational, and persuasive. This is our chance as individuals to inspire, educate, and convince others as to who we are, what we represent, and the why. The why, which is the heartbeat of every story and the key factor in determining as to how you resonate with others.
Oh yeah, and Yesenia, thank you so very much for your amazing intro and really who you are, and you just mentioned about your background, and I really like when you mentioned that connection with Hispanic, and just that you're born in America, and It's really awesome, and I really appreciate it. So, and I think that our episode today is gonna be amazing because you have a lot to share with us. I know that, and yeah, and you mentioned, and when you mentioned about your background and that you work in corporate America and other, that in this particular podcast, growing business only with Christina is also dedicated to small business owners and you know solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and however, just to spread the word, and they wanted to find to target international market. But also, when you mentioned that you were working for corporate America and government, non-government, non-profit, and other organizations, how was your experience there in terms that you decide to start your own business journey? And the point is also to, in this podcast, to support other people to start their own business journey. Either they come from corporate organization, or and have their own experience to share with that. And sometimes they're in stuck to start. They don't know where to start, how to start, have business idea, but I don't know how. So that's our specific guest speakers to inspire our audience, just to sharing your story, to just to inspire other people and listeners to start their own business journey.
To be honest with you, Kristina, being an entrepreneur was far beyond what I expected. It was not even on my radar. In all honesty, I thought I was going to have a typical standard corporate career, climbing up through the ladder, achieving my professional goals, getting promoted, and as well as to being fully involved in the everyday, day-to-day aspects and operations of a corporate communications department, and just making my mark. Just like everybody else, I grew up with the philosophy that if you stick to the typical standard pathway, you're going to be able to achieve whatever professional goals that you hire. But as I've navigated through my journey, I realized more and more that the current corporate environment today is not what it was, what it wasn't. I'll reemphasize this. The corporate environment wasn't what it once was. Back in the old or the previous era, I should say. Now, the corporate environment of today has become very vanilla, standard. There's not much movement, and one of the big things now that if you work in corporate America, that you need not only to get in but also to ascend your way up is access. And what I mean by that is having the capability to network with individuals within the organization, being able to formulate relationships with the key power players, and having those individuals not only connect with you, but also sponsor you. They're the ones who are going to be elevating your name, your skill set, having a clear understanding as to who you are. They're the ones who are going to be taking you to the next level. Skills are are a small part of it, but ultimately is the access, is who you know that is ultimately going to get you through the door. And as I've come to the realization that the corporate politics now are vastly different, I've also realized that my own philosophy within corporate has also changed, because working in corporate America, you have already gotten accustomed to the ins and outs of the day-to-day operations. It's come to the point where it's become repetitive. And so in my mind, I realized that most of the things that I've done working for somebody else, I could do it for my own. And have my own set of clients, and being able to have full 100% control of the creativity, whether it's from a messaging or a creative standpoint. And so, the last 6 years in particular, working in corporate America, was a struggle between trying to say goodbye to that corporate identity and start to embrace a new path, an entrepreneurial one. It wasn't until I endured two career transitions where I started to realize that entrepreneurship was the other path that was pointing me to go through. And it is one that, in my opinion, I realized that my true power and my story as to how I navigated through corporate America and transitioning it, and now practically being a full-time entrepreneur is something that many entrepreneurs can relate. And also at a time right now where especially here in the United States, where many people working in corporate America are unfortunately being laid off. Per a lot of a lot of situations are changing. What has been known for a long time, many people are now struggling to figure out the direction that they want to go into. It is something that that I personally am being much more aware of, and also helping others in many ways to figure out as to what will ultimately be their next path forward. So as I to sum everything up, it's quite a rewarding experience. Obviously, there's still so many challenges that I have to endure, and as well as lessons learned. But up to this point, I could, proudly say that I am an entrepreneur, ready and willing to understand the game and figure out as to how I can help others through my gift, which is communications and storytelling, and be a game changer to deliver that intense impact.
Thank you for sharing that. And when you mentioned when you were working in corporate America, and you mentioned that, I just wanted to repeat, to be repetitive, because but to be entrepreneur, it's not it has been with a lot of obligation. This is different angle
Yeah,
of uh, uh, just running a business. But I think in one side, to you can learn. But I think that you can take more decisions and be much more focused on your business and having control what you do. So, and I think that you can just be in progress in terms that if you do repetitive, but you can just work with who do you want to work with.
yeah.
And this is it takes obligation, but it has also satisfaction to
I,
grow
I,
and to grow up, like in terms of education, of experience, of learning, delegating people to work who you
yeah.
wanted to work with you, and other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And to also add another point, when you work in corporate, having both the corporate and the entrepreneurial is two-sided. The reason why I say this is that if you work in corporate America, you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset in order to be able to achieve not only your own professional goals, but also the department and the organization overall. You're gonna have to think entrepreneurially in terms as to how you're gonna tackle your assignments and being able to fulfill the departmental objectives for on behalf of the organization. So you got to think like an entrepreneur. Whereas if you are an entrepreneur, in order for you to be able to construct your business from the ground up, scale it, and then eventually keep it sustainable, you have to have the corporate mindset, because in corporate America, there's structure. And depending as to the structure of the organization and having experience working in that environment, you're going to be able to transfer all those skills over to the entrepreneurial side, and then be able to construct your own ecosystem, one that is efficient, sustainable, and ultimately profitable. So that way, not only you, but also eventually your future team and clients will be able to benefit from that. So, in many ways, there is the fusion between both components, and in addition, as well, for individuals, especially those working in corporate America, at this point now, you have to position yourself as a brand. And the reason why I say that is because when you have your own personal brand, you set yourself up as a business, especially when you go job hunting in corporate America. Your resume just becomes part of your portfolio. Now you have to be multi-versatile, diversify in multiple areas because one skill set, one job is not going to cut it anymore. Now you really got to multiply and figure out ways as to how you can construct your own personal brand, one that's very much multifaceted in many areas, which showcases not only your footprint but also your skill sets, and be able to position yourself as an entity. Because when companies come in and looking for an area of need, whether it's from a programmatic product or service standpoint, you as an individual have to position yourself as a service, and you're selling yourself as such to these companies. So that way, if there is a particular alignment, then there is mutual interest for both parties to collaborate together.
Yeah, and that's when you mentioned that, I was also I was working also in corporate in organization, and after that I saw that I can achieve much more as entrepreneur. And
Mhm.
in that time that team for the web and graphic design created 15 years ago, but also I started my own journey like
Yeah.
KSM, brand business online brand, and this is like a coaching part, podcasting and speaking. I'm also speaker, and I was a speaker on many like in, in like a conferences or podcast or summit or something like that. And yeah, and when you mentioned that, you just really wanted to promote and build your brand as
Yeah.
entrepreneur, and this is so important. And its brand is not just only create your logo, create your branding colors. Branding is much more, especially when we talk about personal branding, because people work with people, and we really need to introduce ourselves, and the people know who we are and what we do. And this is so important for what Yesenia does in terms of communication. So I want to, maybe we can open that topic a little bit about Yesenia, what you do in your company, especially about the communication, and share with us why it is important to communicate, to know how to communicate, and maybe we can start with this so to continue sharing about your part, what you do as entrepreneur.
Sure. So obviously, the purpose of communications is to tell a story. And that is the simplest definition that I can offer to audiences, because many people, when they hear about communications, automatically they think of the word communicate, because we have something that we want to tell. But also, if you start peeling off the layers and many people start asking further, well, what exactly does communications do? Then many people, unfortunately, do not have the full concept of it, because, quite frankly, many people don't know exactly as to what communications does, other than tell a
And many
simple.
people don't know what is a storytelling. Maybe you
Yeah.
can share with us a little bit, just to not like it's a definition, but also just what is a storytelling? What is the core that people need to have it and promote and be recognizable what they do as a brand?
Sure. So, storytelling stems off the word story, which is a particular tale or message that you want either a single individual or a massive audience to know more about. It's story having a story stems from having two of these things. Either you're there to inform someone about a particular situation, or some kind of event, or an individual that you met. It could vary, but one is to inform, the other is to persuade. And so you use your story to convince somebody of a particular argument or a certain area that you need input from. And so for to so to inform or to persuade, that is basically the two main pillars that many individuals utilize to formulate their story. So now, once you have either the inform or the persuade part down, now you got to start building the meat of the story. And so that is where I talk about mainly as to the five W's. And everybody might be thinking, well, what are the five W's? The five W's are who, what, where, when, and why. Those are the ingredients to your story. And that is where you're going to start tabulating all of that information to create the gumbo, the to your story. And one of the absolute important components into any story is why. The word why. The why is the heartbeat of the story, because that is where you're going to be explaining your point to this individual or to this audience. Why should I be interested in what you have to say? Why should I invest in what you bring to the table or in this story? Convince me why I have to listen to you. And so that is where you are going to create your argument to either inform or persuade that individual why they should either be in alignment with
Or
you.
why audience is going to listen us today?
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly. Why should they
At this
exactly
show.
why should they listen to us? It's either they're going to either be convinced of your argument, either they align with you, or they're going to formulate their own opinion and they're going to go in another direction. But that is what storytelling is all about. It's about generating conversations, shape-shifting narratives and perceptions. That is our job as communicators. We in the communications industry, regardless of whatever level you are in, as a communicator, we have the power to shapeshift your mind and perception. That's a given, and the reason being is because we know how to craft different types of messages and to do it in a way that aligns with the intended target. And then once we understand who that target is, how do they consume their media, their behavioral tactics, their identity, everything that surrounds that individual, and through deep in research, we are able to then utilize that information, craft a messaging that exactly aligns in the exact voice and tone of that person or that audience, and then transmit that message to that individual or that audience via that platform as many times as we want, in the many in many different formats. So whether
And how do you, so excuse me, how do you research that? Do you have some specific to research right audience for your client and crafting message? Just maybe on social media. Maybe I just wanted to like to put in details a little bit that our audience can be much more familiar with this, maybe because there are many people, yeah, I have message, but we can not share with everyone.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is time losing,
yeah, and I think
and
also, the strategic side of storytelling stems from having knowledge as to the way as to how you need to research your story. So it can come from basically the traditional methods, whether it's using Google, through books, consuming media, whether it's the variety of outlets such as maybe television, podcasting, radio, among other or other mediums. It also word of mouth, have listening to individuals, understanding their perspective, and then adding and combining that information with your analysis, and then from there, once you have all of that research, again, which can be done through traditional and new formats, then you'll be able to develop your message that is going to then that is intended to your target audience. And so that is one way, in terms as to doing research. The other way as well is having a key understanding as to where your audience lives. Ultimately, you need to figure out as to where exactly do they consume their media, because now today there are there are many different avenues as to how individuals consume their news, their stories, and then you need to go to where they're at. So there may be some media platforms that that may work for your business, but there may be others that, quite frankly, may not be a uh, uh, part of your business plan. And so it's really important, for organizations to identify which platforms each audience lives, and then as well as the content, sizing up the content that you have, and then being able to create different types of content, create different types of content that is then going to be transmitted through these mediums. So you don't have to have your presence on all of the platforms. You could have a presence only where you have the content to share and eventually engage with your public, and b, the financial tie into it, which is the budget. Does your budget allow you to be able to be in this space, and for how long?
Yeah, that's yeah. And when you mention, we really need to be focused uh, on one platform. There are many people different, and this is time consuming, and we can really not manage everything because we have
Yeah,
only 8 hours per day. So as you mentioned, that will be so good advice, excellent for your audience, just to run only one platform and try
yeah,
to share it to see which one is either is it LinkedIn, X, Instagram, Facebook, or other platforms,
yeah.
which one is the best for you and your
Yeah.
audience to share your content?
Yep, and it's not only the social media platforms, Christina. You
Yeah.
can also
Yeah.
look at
Yes, of course. Yes,
Yeah,
of
you can
course.
also look at other mediums as well, podcasting, vlogging, traditional blogs like Substack, newsletters, where they can be published, whether it's directly through your website, email automation slash CRM, or on a social media platform like LinkedIn. There are many other different
Or
avenues.
or
Yeah,
TV or radio. I don't know.
exactly. Advertisement.
Podcast.
Yeah, there are many different avenues as to where brands can identify where they want to transmit their messaging, and then eventually blast it out. There are plenty of mediums, but I think what we're also witnessing as well is that the current environment today is making brands and individuals realize that they have some alternative options as well, with the rise of alternative media and decentralized platforms. The word decentralized is going to be heard a lot in the coming years, as more individuals and organizations start to get away from the centralized platforms, mainly because of control. If you're in a centralized platform, then you're under the the regulations and the protocols of the organization. You have to abide by their rules, and their tactics. But now many people want to have 100% control of their content, so that way they can fully regulate it, and control it. So now we're looking at these decentralized platforms that can be delivering those types of results for brands. So that is also something else to keep an eye on top of everything that is occurring in the ever evolving media landscape.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing here in today's episode because we are here just to help our audience. especially in communication, what you do, Yesenia, and you really, really explain that. So I'm so happy to talk to you about that today as expert in communication area. So yeah, and can you share with us? I know that we wanted to talk, have a lot of time to talk about, and just like I know that you have is gonna be like just to share some expertise and knowledge and experience about we yeah we shared about storytelling, but I know that you wanted to share some other segments of your business, what you do.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, why Communicate has a very strong corporate communications DNA. It's something that obviously it is forever going to be attached to. And what, but and one of the things that that I really am excited about as communications, specifically with the emergence of artificial intelligence coming into play, is the fact that now communications is becoming much more multilingual. We're seeing the well, you can say the resurgence in many ways of international corporate communications. And to give everybody a quick lowdown as to what international corporate communications is, it's the strategic management of how a company communicates across borders, cultures, languages, and markets, both internally and externally. So you want to think of international corporate communications, or the acronym ICC for short, as the global voice of a company, how it speaks to the world and how it keeps all of its parts within its respective operations aligned, no matter who they are and what they represent. And so, what we're witnessing in real time is the outside of communications from a geopolitical standpoint is multipolarity. And so many countries are now starting to become much more self-reliant and abundant in who they are. Many industries from some of the fastest regions in the world are making their own mark, and the way as to how we communicate internationally now is changing. And so there is going to be a lot of focus centered on brand messaging, stakeholder engagement, crisis communication, obviously, investor relations, employee communications, media and public relations strategies, and the cultural adaptation of content. And as it continues to evolve, we will then encompass as to what ultimately is going to be the true purpose of international corporate communications, and that is not only to unify the brand globally across all markets, but also to build and maintain a reputation and engage in not only stakeholder growth, but also in community growth as well, since everybody now is focused on community. Everybody wants to have their own group where they feel like they belong. And so many brands today are supporting community groups that can continue to align to their mission, vision, and values.
Oh, that's excellent, and just to think about global international communication. This is such when you can share that in a multilingual way. And when I started my podcast, it was like it's a global because it's I talk to and hosted entrepreneurs from all around the world. And yeah, this is something very,
Yeah.
very interesting, and it's so important. And what do you think about, thankful to AI, we can really share and we can have a stronger communication skills to connect with many countries, like entrepreneurs from you don't have to think about it. You just go there. You have AI which can help you to grow and to as a tool, of course, just to help you. But what do you think about international communication and how do you resonate with that? It's so important nowadays. I mean, especially in the global world and global. business part, how we can say it.
If you have not taken note as to the changes that we're witnessing today in the world with the rise of multipolarity and having a much better understanding as to what each country represents, and as well as their as their cultural, political, societal, and economic um values, I should say, fused together, then unfortunately, it's time for you to start becoming much more acclimated with what with what is happening right now with today. As as international communications continues to take shape, I think it's not a one size fit for all. I think what is really important is that in international corporate communications, you got to know who you're talking about, how to adapt your message to that, not only to that platform but also to their cultural and emotional context. That's why it's really important. Like if you go in any market, you gotta have to have an understanding as to who that market is. They may consume their media. Much differently than what we do here. Their cultural values are different, their traditions, the way as to how they present themselves is vastly, is vastly different. I could, obviously for instance, culture here in the United States, it's, it's more, is diversified. But let's say, like, if you go, let's say, let's go down to Latin America, and we go, like, let's say to Brazil. Their culture is vastly different. Or if you go to, like, or if you go to Spain in Europe, they also have much different dialect, the language, the ways to how they they talk about themselves. Everybody is vastly different. So that's why it's really important, for businesses to have a cultural understanding and intelligence as to what are the local taboos, the values, the symbols, the communication norms, understanding the high context concept of their culture to their low context concept of their culture, having an understanding as to the language, the localization. It's not just about translating simple words. It's not going to cut it. So you gotta understand the tone, the intent, the relevancy surrounding it, using humor, expressions, being very careful as to how you implement that into international messaging, and then always having that consistent core messaging, always staying on message. Because if you are not on message, and if you don't do the proper research as to as to what the market is, and and how do they best consume it, then your organization is going to run into some problems. And that's what you the last thing that you need is to alienate audiences. Nobody wants inauthentic, fake content.
And
So
do you think that people need entrepreneurs, business owners, that they need to go and visit that countries just to be in person there, something to research? When you are in that market personally, it's better than just to research online because you can align with those people
yeah.
to ask questions, to research, and whatever you want to share, like either that you or product or service based in company, but also, yeah, that's, and to know that culture and language and their feelings and their emotions and how they resonate with something, because we are different countries, different market, either that we can go global, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And the old saying goes, um, I can't think of it off of the top of my head, but what I can tell you is that it is always best to listen. It's all it's it's one of these the more basic traditional societal norms that we have, but it's probably one of the most important is simply to listen, and have an understanding as to as to the individual themselves and how as to how they handle their day-to-day lives. And so it's always good to get out there to the world, explore, talk to others, listen, and experience the culture. Because it's one thing to actually, do your research, and understand from that standpoint. That's important. But you're not going to be able to get the full grasp as to what the country is, the people, the culture, the history, everything about it, if you don't experience it with your own eyes. When you go out there and actually see, feel, interact with others, then that is where you're going to get the perspective. And that is how it's going to shape the ways to how you communicate with others. That's why traveling is one of my biggest loves. It's also therapeutic for me. I love to travel because this is my chance to not only get to know people, but also experience the cultures. And it helps me shape my perspective. That's why I consider myself as an international citizen, because I see everybody on equal levels. And this is also my chance not only to tell my story, but this is also my chance to understand others, get their cultures and norms, and be able to formulate that global perspective that that is ultimately going to help me learn more about others and figure out ways as to how, from a business standpoint, how I can help them. And I think in many ways it's ironic, that why Communicate is going international, because
Yeah, and I wanted just to share, how
yeah,
do you resolve that? How do
exactly.
you help
Uh,
people in white communication, in white
yeah,
communication?
Yeah, exactly. It took me years for me to figure out, well, where exactly, from an audience standpoint, why Communicate is going to go. Uh, but uh, but it wasn't until several months ago, where I attended a very important business conference, and meeting people from all over the world, and understanding not only their business, but also how they go by it, and learning uh, from their, where they came from, and um, even the personal things as well. It made me realize that communications is global, it's international. And so the way as to how we communicate ourselves, we do so through a beautiful arrangement of dialects and idioms, and the way as to how we naturally talk to each other in our native tongue is what makes us special in many ways. And so it's and so communications stems from that philosophy. This is our chance, to utilize our gift of storytelling, because that is our voice. And if we're able to express that in our own native tongue, we are able to make connections. And it makes it even better if, and I highly recommend it to everybody. Please learn please learn multiple languages, because it's equally as beautiful to be able to communicate with somebody in their own native language, and having the capacity to have a simple conversation with someone. And that is what communications is all about.
Thank you for sharing that. And just imagine, we are in different parts of the world, and English is my second language. So, and I realized, and I must say that when was a kid, and I was say, okay, I was thinking, okay, I really wanted to speak English because this is international language, and we really need to have one. But today is much more easier because you have AI, you have a tool how you can translate very quickly. But also this is tool. I think always that we need to use our brain. I always say that because you can put it that, but you can always overcome and just to use to be multilingual. I mean, just to speak in many languages and connect with many different entrepreneurs in different countries, especially where do you want it to grow, to when do you want it to connect, and when do you want it to just
Yeah.
develop new market for your business, for your service and products.
Yeah, and it's something that entrepreneurs should care about. Being able to incorporate international corporate communications into their business plans. We have been seeing over the years, especially here in the United States, that communications professionals deserve to have a seat at the table because their insight in terms as to how not only we develop messaging, but also we're the representative of that organization. As spokespeople, we have to speak in front of audiences as to what the organization is doing and to address the needs of audiences, or train the CEO or senior executives themselves and make sure there are media slash camera ready for them to tell their to tell their stories to audiences. So it goes without saying, if you don't have communications in your plans, then you're going to be a step behind. So it's really important for solopreneurs specifically to care, because if you are starting or scaling a startup, whether it's domestically or globally, it is very much mission critical. My One of my early communications mentors gave me one of the many communications lessons that professionally that stuck with me, and it's perception is reality. And that statement could not ring any more true, because a single miscommunication can erode trust in an international market within nanoseconds. So
So
it's yeah.
yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. And so it's really important for brands and for businesses overall to be fully entrenched and knowledgeable, not only in the messaging that they want to transmit, but also ultimately cementing trust and credibility with that audience. Because today, your credibility and the authenticity of your brand very much hold weight. And if you it takes well over 20 plus years for you to build your brand, only for one little mistake can tumble it down in 3 seconds. That's how quickly you'll solopreneurs can lose their place in the market and erode any trust that they have built for so many years with audiences. That's why, as a communications professional, and whether you work in-house or agency, it's one of the many reasons why we lecture so much on cementing credibility and trust. Because in order for you to establish yourself as a reliable source with that audience, you gotta prove to them that you're someone that is reliable, authentic, serviceable, and actionable, and ensuring that you're accessible with your audience, fully engage with them, understand their concepts, and of course, build a community where your audience is basically like your gatekeepers. They tell you different formats as to how to shape your brand, and they are primarily the reason as to how and why a business becomes what it was meant to be.
Yeah, Yesenia, you explain everything perfect. I love that. And also for your dear audience, if you wanted to know more about communication, storytelling, whatever, and especially global communication, please connect with Yesenia. She will help you a lot. So Yesenia, you can we share your how audience can connect with you? I will put all information, your website and social media, link your links to social media pages, but just you can share with us before we ramp up our call today.
Sure. So, if anybody is interested in reaching out to me, obviously I'm available on all of my primary social media mediums on LinkedIn, at Yesenia Reinoso, my official name, and as well as my company name, Why Communicate. I also have a monthly newsletter exclusively on LinkedIn called The Legacy. So feel free to hit those subscribe buttons and join us on our journey. I'm also available on my official website, whycommunicate.org. and also on Instagram at y.communicate.
Yesenia, it has been such a pleasure having you today. Sh- I asked you many questions, but it doesn't mean I will invite you again to share about other special global communication. And I'm so excited again to have you today. Thank you for sharing such amazing story. I learned a lot from you today, and I think that the audience will also learn. So if you have just only one that we can impact or influence, that will be so good. And I would love to see comments for audience who will listen that this episode.
Well, thank you again, Christina, and thank you to your entire audience for listening. And I look forward to coming back here again on a future date to further discuss communications. Thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you for joining and have a lovely day and see you very soon. And bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Till then.
Bye. Bye bye.